Good evening. I'd like to formally apologize for my behavior for the last 2 weeks. What occurred was both unacceptable and regrettable. I sincerely apologize, and I want to let everyone know that I'm taking the steps necessary to correct what happened, to correct the behavioral issues within myself, and to take measures to end. I can't keep going. This is not a real apology. But I would imagine a formal, sincere apology would start something like that. It's something that needs to be well thought out and rehearsed, probably to a certain degree. It could come off authentic and organic and spontaneous, but I think it's probably better to rehearse your public apology, being that it is, you're in the spotlight and you're kind of apologizing either on camera or virtually or in person, even, which would be even more terrifying. But I wanted to make a video specifically on apologies, and in particular, formal public apologies, because I think, like with all things, there's the right way of doing it, and then there's the wrong way of doing it. There's probably a whole spectrum in between those. We've seen so many of them over the years from politicians and people in the media or celebrities. Each apology is kind of unique and has its own set of circumstances and its own sort of more or less transparent strategies that they're using to kind of mitigate any potential damage or whatever to their reputation. So what gave me the idea for this video was I was reading the druthers from, and anybody who watches my content knows I'm a huge Druthers fan, not affiliated, just a big fan. I love anything truth, love, and freedom. So I was reading Druthers issue number 36, November 2023, and on the second page there is an article called "It's Time for an Apology," and I'll put it up here on the screen so you can see it. I'll read the author's note because it's important to start with this so people understand that this is not a real apology. Unfortunately, I wish it was, but this is sort of a mock apology of what a good public apology, a sincere one, might look like. But the author's note is important here. The evidence is compelling that the various levels of government, public health, and media have caused or contributed to the harming of Canadians in their response to COVID-19. With previous government actions that caused grievous harm, governments eventually offer a formal apology and restitution for the harm caused. Makes sense, right? I suggest it is well beyond time for an apology and restitution. I agree. Above is a suggestion of what that apology ought to state. That's Ted Kuhns, president of VaccineChoiceCanada.com. I've read a lot of Ted's stuff. He has some pretty darn good content, I must say. And then the Druthers editor further noted, to be clear, the above apology was not actually issued by the Government of Canada. Wish it was. It is simply a representation of ideally how a government or prime minister who truly cares for their citizens would behave. So it's a cool idea, and I think it's well written. Clearly, there was a lot of mistakes made. Maybe they weren't mistakes. Maybe they were intentional. We don't know. We'll probably never know that. Investigations are always happening internally, so it's very difficult to determine that. Even with all the FOIA requests that you want, you're never really going to get the full truth of what really happened. But we know that there was some foul play. There always is with this kind of thing. There's usually hidden agendas, and there's ulterior motives. No surprise there. But getting back to the apology part of it, when you've been caught red-handed, that's the time to apologize. That's the time to say there's some things we did right, some things we didn't do right. There's some things we could definitely improve. There's some things that we identify now in hindsight was not the right way. and we're going to make different choices. I'll just read it to you here, and I'll put it up on the screen so you can follow along if you want. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I humbly extend my sincerest apologies to all Canadians for the deeply regrettable actions taken by governments which have resulted, and I like how they say governments here, not just one government. That's not just the Government of Canada. It's a lot of governments. Most governments are guilty of this, which have resulted in undue suffering and harm to all Canadians. It is our moral and legal duty to recognize the consequences of government policies that have caused harm and to take meaningful steps toward reconciliation. And as Ted pointed out here, the evidence is overwhelming that, the government, public health, media, they all sinned big time. In particular, we now recognize and acknowledge that despite our rhetoric of following the science and our commitment to protecting Canadians, the government implemented policies which were rash, scientifically unsupported, harmful, and in violation of fundamental rights and freedoms. Right away, when I got to that part, I'm like, that's not usually something that the government gives too much of a crap about, but we'll entertain the idea. But yes, absolutely, that's their main job. That should be their only job, or one of their only jobs, as far as I'm concerned, is protecting our fundamental rights. Not so much freedoms, but that's a whole other thing. We humbly acknowledge that we have caused pain, trauma, and hardship to countless Canadians. These actions are not unlike the internment of Japanese Canadians during World War II and the cultural cleansing of Indigenous children in residential schools, which they would, of course, never admit to any wrongdoing there. But it's nice to read that because they should be taking this stance, to be honest. Our COVID policies and mandates are another dark chapter in our history that we must confront and seek forgiveness. We also recognize the hostile and acrimonious way in which we divided Canadians, pitting family against family, friend against friend, and neighbor against neighbor based on their personal choices. These harmful policies continue to have profound and lasting effects on the affected individuals, their families, and their communities. We must acknowledge these injustices and seek to make amends. To this end, the Government of Canada is committed to a comprehensive plan for restitution and reconciliation. In the coming months, we will implement a monetary compensation program aimed at providing redress to those individuals who have been the most severely impacted by these unjust and harmful policies and mandates. We are committed to working in close collaboration with those affected to ensure that the compensation plan is fair, comprehensive, and sensitive to the needs of those who have suffered. I like this part. We understand that compensation alone cannot fully heal the wounds, but it is a significant step in acknowledging the pain and suffering caused by our irresponsible actions. And that's true. The monetary side of it's not going to fix the whole problem, but it's a step in the right direction, right? It's a sign, it's a gesture also that you're interested in bettering the situation. You're genuinely interested in positive change. Unlike past compensations, these compensations, I love this, will not come from the pockets of the taxpayer, but rather will come from those politicians, public health officials, vaccine manufacturers, and the mainstream media who were directly responsible for implementing these unjust and unscientific measures. Those who should have known better should pay the cost. Absolutely. That's accountability, that's liability. Moreover, our government is dedicated to implementing measures to prevent such injustices from occurring in the future. We will foster a culture of respect for human rights, evidence-based policies, and the protection of fundamental freedoms for all Canadians as laid out in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which they would also never quote. They want to pretend like it doesn't exist, because that's the de facto way. We also intend that those who violated fundamental rights, encouraged in the promotion and administration of fraudulent and harmful vaccine products, denied alternative treatments, or violated fundamental rights be held to account, including the laying of criminal charges and incarceration where appropriate. You're damn straight. In our journey toward truth and reconciliation, the Government of Canada pledges to engage with affected communities, individuals, and all Canadians, seeking to understand their experiences, provide support, and promote a brighter and more inclusive future for all. Cats are going crazy. They don't like it. They don't like that it's not real. While we can never undo the past, we can learn from it and strive to create a more just, inclusive, and equitable society. And I love how they're using that word appropriately here, which is nice to see for a change. Equity has been, that's a term that's been run through the mud at this point. We hope that through this official apology and the forthcoming compensation program and accountability, we can begin to address the pain and suffering caused by our unjust policies. Together, we must work towards a Canada where all individuals are treated with dignity, respect, and equality. I would have said equity there instead. Maybe substitute the previous word for something else, but we can't use equity and equality interchangeably because they're not the same. They're very different, especially at the legalese level. So it's the only small critique I have with this, but otherwise, it's signed sincerely, Prime Minister of Canada. He doesn't even say Justin Trudeau, which is badass. And then again, like Druther said, to be clear, the above apology was not actually issued by the Government of Canada, as much as we wish it was. But it's something that the powers that wish to be could, supposed leaders of the free world, this is the stance that they should take. Now, with the rest of the video, I wanted to actually show you an example, which is fantastic that I have this available, that I was able to find it, and coincidentally I got this email today. So it's actually from Eric Provost, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer at the Laurentian Bank, which is a bank in Montreal. I think they're headquartered in Montreal, I could be mistaken. That's the address here at the top anyway. It's one of the banks that I do business with. It's a great bank for many reasons. There's one reason in particular I would love to cite on this video, but I'm not going to because it's a fairly hefty topic that we don't have the opportunity to unpack here and now. It's not the right time or place. But there is a specific reason that I do business with these guys on top of being excellent, as you can see. But if you read through this, and I'll go through it just so that we can really appreciate this, this is a prime example of a very effective, sincere, genuine public apology. And I love this. This is real world now, right? Where there's cats, where there's been an actual corporate faux pas, so to speak, but the company was very quick to make it right, or to do what they can to offer some type of support and restitution. So, to our valued customers, and again, this is a letter to Laurentian Bank customers from Eric Provost, President and Chief Executive Officer at Laurentian Bank. To summarize real quick what happened, sometime, I think, was it in September or something like that, earlier this year, somewhere around the third quarter, the bank went down. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I don't think it was a hack or anything. It just, they had some type of technical issue and people did not have access to their accounts. I was not fully a member yet, so it didn't really affect me. But I heard that a few days before, like their IVR system was saying that their whole system was down for over 3 days, I think he was saying here. And that's a huge deal when people, potentially thousands of people were not able to access funds when they needed them, which is a big deal. So obviously this warrants a public apology, and the CEO in this case, President, stepped up. And I'll just read through it because I think this is fantastic. December 7, 2023. To our valued customers, as we approach the end of the year and the holidays, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincerest thank you for your business and ongoing loyalty to Laurentian Bank. This has been a difficult year, being honest right off the bat, it has. And a lot of customers felt it too, right? So the increasingly challenging macroeconomic conditions, such as high inflation and rising rates, have created pressures for banks and financial institutions, and we are no exception. I'd like to assure you that Laurentian Bank is well capitalized and able to withstand challenging times from a position of strength. If you read into those last two sentences, you could read a lot into that when you really break it down, but let's keep going. Our bank remains a solid and stable institution. We look forward to building an exceptional banking experience for you for years to come. So it's basically reassuring people and saying our reputation is intact, and I will explain to you why you should continue to trust us. I last wrote to you on October the 2nd, 2023, my first day at Laurentian Bank. Imagine that, as the president and CEO. Only a few days after we experienced an outage in our mainframe. Oh, there you go. An outage on our mainframe that interrupted electronic services for over 3 days. Wow. That event and the issues it created for our customers were completely unacceptable. That's the kind of stuff that you need to say, because otherwise people are not going to believe it. They're going to call you on your BS. And you can sound empathetic or sympathetic, but genuinely coming across that way is a whole other thing completely. But I love how they're honest here about it. It was completely unacceptable, and it was. If people can't access their funds, and it creates this huge domino effect of, disaster for people. That's unacceptable. Like, you got lawsuits on your hands there. So he's doing what he can to mitigate it by being honest that it was not cool. I am deeply apologetic, and he's apologized a couple times now. He's used the word sincere and I think genuine for the inconvenience the outage may have caused for you, your family, and your company. Acknowledging here that there's a wide impact, not just for the individual, but it extends to the family, to the community, to people's businesses. In that letter, I committed to implementing a three-part action plan to regain your trust. A three-part action plan to regain your trust. That's the kind of stuff that, as a client, you want to hear. If you want to hold on to me at this point as a client, you better have a plan. It has now been 2 months, and I am pleased to share that we have successfully executed on that plan. Number one, we have resolved all outstanding issues related to the outage. Number two, we increased our communication levels with customers to ensure that you were provided with timely updates on the full restoration of the bank's services. And three, we launched a comprehensive review of the factors that led to the outage, and are adjusting our internal processes as required based on the lessons learned. So some important things there. They understand what happened. They know what they need to do to prevent it from happening again, and they're taking the steps that they need to do that. What more could you really ask for? Now, if it happens again, that's a different story, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, as they deserve. So they're a fine institution as far as I can tell. Furthermore, as a small step towards making things right with you, we reimburse monthly service fees for September and waive monthly service fees for October. That's kind of like a little bonus, cherry on the cake. The work to build back your trust has only just started. I like how they acknowledge that there's still work to do. In the months ahead, we will be revamping the bank's strategic plan, and our top priority as an organization is to become more customer-centric, offering you world-class services and sound financial advice. Having worked quite a lot in the customer service and customer experience space, I can say, for sure that approach makes sense, because that seems to be what's failing a lot of businesses these days, is they don't really care so much about the customer experience anymore. So making being customer centric, as they said, is definitely a way of offering that extra step up, like white glove service that not a lot of businesses are doing anymore. And then on behalf of everyone at Laurentian Bank, I want to thank you once again for entrusting us with your business. Wish you and your loved ones a happy holiday season with health and prosperity in the new year. Sincerely, Eric Provo, President and CEO. And you can't really see it here, but in the email, it actually is his wet signature, which is pretty unusual, to say the least. Not only is his name there, so there's an actual man at the other end of that, not just a legal person. There's an actual human that signs his name. Amazing, because you don't even see that much anymore. Signatures don't exist. I mean, it's digital representation of his signature, but that's more than you see on most legal and commercial documents. You just don't see wet signatures anymore. So it adds a level of integrity to it. But I just wanted to, first of all, explore the idea of what a good public apology might look like. And we've seen two good examples of what those look like. We've seen the lack of anything from the current governmental institutions. They just couldn't care less, it seems, to make any apologies, to acknowledge any wrongdoing, let alone take the steps to apologize. But there you go, Government of Canada, Canada Inc. You have everything you need now. You have two solid examples in this video showing you how it's done. It's not that hard, not that difficult, right? It's like the same kind of stuff I try to teach my kids, and most good parents would try to teach their kids the same thing. Is when you make a mistake, as we all do, you first admit you've made the mistake, and then you take the steps necessary to rectify things as best you can. And if you can't fix it, you just do anything and everything you can to try and make it better, to at least demonstrate that you acknowledge there was a mistake there, and you're going to be taking the steps to make it right to the best of your abilities, and to certainly ensure that that mistake never happens again. That's it. And like with all things, apologies, certainly public ones, I imagine. I'm not a politician, but I imagine that you get better at it with time. But it's not a skill that you can just kind of, we're going to skimp out on the genuineness of the apology. Like, no, that defeats the whole purpose if you try to do that. So there you have it. So there's also, like I said, two great examples to reference. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Come here. I, Theodore, must humbly, and sincerely apologize. Apologize for saying that I fucked another man. Saying that I fucked another man. Right. Satisfied?